joining us. There we go. Okay. Good afternoon. This is the House Appropriations Committee. It is Monday, February 9th, and we are here to review some budgets about various agencies of state government to review their budget proposals for next year. And our first guest this morning is the Department of Financial Regulation. Commissioner Sampson is here, and I don't know your other partner.
David Cameron, Administrative Services Director.
Welcome, both of you.
Thank you.
Do you know everybody in this committee? Have you?
Yes.
You were here during the BAA.
Yeah. I was here discussing Blue Cross Blue Shield's solvency, but not for the BAA.
All right.
Unless,
Some point earlier this year.
yes, correct.
Okay. And Mike Micro is our person on the committee that worked with you.
Yeah.
So any questions that we have after we've spoken with you, we're going to be talking to him.
Good. We hope to make it easy.
Go ahead and give us your presentation.
Okay, for the record, Kai Sampson, Commissioner of DFR, joined by Dave Cameron, the brains behind the financial part of our operation. And then with us, we have either online or in person, all our deputies. We have 4 divisional deputies. So if there are any deeper questions on the budgets within their divisions, which we do budget by division, and then we should have everyone here to answer any questions that come up. And Joe Valenti, our Director of Policy, is here and also controlling the screen here conveniently. So in terms of overview, the first slide, slide 2, we are, of course, a special fund or 100% special fund funded. We take in a lot of revenue, take what we need through the budget in these special funds and revert the rest through a direct app to the general fund. Our budget this year is what I would term a level service budget. So we do not have any additional staff or personnel or any additional programs that we're pitching to be funded, et cetera. So it results in a 2.9% increase over the current budget. And you'll see on the right side here in the bullets, 86% of that increase, 86% of the increase is derived from or rooted in just salaries and benefits. And overall, the budget is about 83% salaries and benefits. So I'm going to go through the PowerPoint slide by slide, and I'll just pause at the end and see if there are any questions per slide, if that works. But of course, interrupt at any time.
Just curious, where is your updated space?
So it's in 89 Main Street, same place we've always been. We've been there in one way or another as long as I started back there in 2006 when it was Bishka, and we've been shuffled around. And, but most recently, the update was really a renovation of the largest piece of space on the second floor that began under Commissioner Gaffney's tenure, and updated the HVAC. You know, that's a leased space, so updated the HVAC system and put in some new cube furniture, kitchen, etc. So very, very nice open space at this point, and easy and also resulted in some savings. I think year over year for the budget we're presenting, I think we're about $60,000, $65,000 reduction in rent. Okay. The next page is our declaration of policy. We probably have an older mission statement out there, but I've always just liked our declaration of policy coming out of the legislative charge for our department. It captures everything that I would want to capture in a mission statement in terms of our responsibility to protect consumers, educate consumers, but also ensure the liquidity and solvency of our domestic companies, and also ensure that licensed entities doing business in Vermont are fulfilling their promises, both financially and in terms of their behavior to consumers, and also markets. We keep an eye on markets. So understanding how competitive certain markets are and how other markets are more challenged, and what we can do regulatorily to introduce more players into certain markets. So it's all kind of captured by those two bullets. In terms of our organization, here you can see how we're set up. Obviously, this isn't everyone, but this is kind of by function across the 4 divisions. In addition to that, we have the legal division. So we have in-house attorneys. We don't frequently, I know you see agencies and departments that have attorneys through the Attorney General's office. Ours are staff of PFR and not affiliated with the Attorney General's office. And you also can see our position count unchanged year over year. So again, not requesting more positions. In terms of our employees, we continue to enjoy above statewide average engagement. We're very proud of that. I think, I came back to the department after an 8-year hiatus. There's a lot of energy. People understand what they do and how it helps Vermonters, how it helps the Vermont economy. And so I think that's part of the engagement. We have a very professional staff as well. I would just guess that about at least half of the staff are either attorneys or credentialed CPAs, CFEs, different financial or legal credentials. We like to keep the engagement up, and I do think it's very tangible what we do in terms of our service to Vermont and Vermonters. I think that really helps with these scores. So this year's presentation is a little bit different than last year, and I like the way we've presented this. In the past, we've shown you certain kind of metrics by division. Here we're showing them in kind of 2 categories: who we regulate and how we regulate them. I'll just hit some highlights here. In banking, of course, we're looking at an environment where you have federal and state authorized banking, and you'll see the numbers here of the state chartered banks and credit unions. It doesn't mean we don't have some kind of market authority or consumer facing authority over all the other licensed or chartered banks, but it gives you the numbers there. And the licenses, like that 2,000 plus number, would include lenders, and then there's individual licensees as well that are tracked by the banking division. In securities, broker dealers, investment advisors, both at the entity and individual level. And what really pops out there, as well as on the insurance space, if you look almost directly across from that 155,000 number, you have insurance agents and adjusters and individuals licensed in Vermont. It seems like, boy, do we really need that many people? But I think, yeah, right. But what you see happening just from a compliance point of view in both those areas is that national companies that run, if you're going to call a national company, insurance company, to ask about insurance, change your insurance direct rather than working with an agent locally, that company is just going to license their entire staff in all 50 states to avoid compliance issues. And I think the same thing can happen on the security side with that broker dealer number. So yeah, that doesn't mean we have 200,000 insurance agents in Vermont. We have 200,000, and it's also multiple licenses within that category, adjusters included there as well. And then in captive, that's one of the 3 divisions that doesn't really have a consumer facing end, that is truly a business to business type transaction. And of course, we are the global leader in terms of captive insurance domicile. So we're at 707 active licenses at this point. That changes almost on a weekly basis in terms of new captive interest, and then other captives can go dormant or finish their operations. So some of them do have a life cycle, and some of them will redomesticate to other areas.
Got a question?
Yes. Foreign agents, foreign agencies, same kind of deal as with the brokers?
Yes. Yep. Exactly.
So perhaps off the beaten track, there's a thing that I've been vaguely aware of in the great world, but it's really gotten a lot of press recently are, what they call prediction markets.
Oh, yes.
Are they regulated at all to the best of your knowledge?
Federally, I believe. We do not regulate them in Vermont in terms of, my understanding, and I've had some back and forth with Commissioner Knight, is there's been a concern when the prediction markets are perhaps encroaching upon sports, right? So if you're doing sports prediction, I believe, and that'd be a Commissioner Knight question, but I don't know, Deputy Ferentz, do you have any insight on, I believe it's not something we regulate, or I don't know if we're preempted prediction markets.
Yeah, thank you, Commissioner. It is not something that the banking division has any oversight. I believe the reason these markets have proliferated is because of the CFTC, the Commodities Futures Trading Commission's rules. So I think there is a federal preemption issue ultimately at play that we cannot oversee.
So prediction markets to me, once upon a time, when I was younger, oh my God, we can bet on anything at Lloyd's.
Right.
London. And that seems to me like what this is. This is betting on, it's making up bets. It's almost like everything's a prop bet, like in terms of, is that the right way of thinking about these markets?
I mean, my experience with what they are is, yeah, you can, there's some international ones. I know of one that was popping up in like around 2010 called InTrade, where they would do elections, primaries, and to actually invest in it, or be engaged in it, you had to send money to a bank in Ireland to set up your account. So it was almost kind of not even probably authorized by, within the US at that point. But because of that preemption, not something I followed closely. Do you have anything on that, Aaron, in terms of reaction to Senator's question?
No, I don't have any more to add. I mean, we've touched a little bit on this when there might be a cryptocurrency touching, because that may involve a DFR license called money transmission. But generally speaking, it's something outside of my scope.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, moving on to the next slide, which is how we regulate. So kind of gave you a flavor of the different type of entities and individuals that fall under our jurisdiction. Now, what are we actually doing? What does regulation look like? And this isn't by any means an exhaustive list. This is some of the high points with some metrics for you, but examinations of both individuals and firms. A lot of that number is coming from domestic captives and domestic insurers, investment advisory firms or individuals, and then banks, where we have, in all of those cases, some type of compulsion to do periodic examinations. Another big number on here is insurance filings. So we have about 24 domestic insurance companies, not including the captive and risk retention groups, but in traditional insurance. But of course, we have hundreds, if not maybe encroaching on 1,000 that are licensed with us. And anyone who's selling a product in Vermont in terms of insurance has to go through, depending on the line of insurance, some level of rate review and policy review with the department, because the business of insurance is regulated by the state, which in that realm really means that we dictate what's allowed and what isn't allowed for coverages and conditions, et cetera, in an insurance policy. So that gives you an idea of the volume of insurance filings we review. Consumer inquiries and complaints, that's a 5-year annual average you see there. It does sometimes get lumpy, but we deal with a lot of calls from consumers asking questions, could be coverage related, could be claims experience, right? They told me this is denied, or they limited me to this many days on my rental car. Is that allowed, et cetera? So we work with consumers there. A lot of those consumer complaints can lead to market conduct investigations. And that kind of brings you further down the page when you look at fines and penalties from enforcement and restitution ordered. In addition to, so restitution ordered means that through an enforcement action on an individual or an entity, we've required them to compensate affected individuals for that behavior. And then in addition to ordering restitution, we'll also collect fines and penalties as appropriate. Questions on how we regulate? And then the reason we're all here, the budget itself. Oh, not quite. This is just a revenue, kind of an actual from the most recently completed fiscal year, showing in 3 columns kind of the DFR revenue we process. That's mostly license fees, et cetera, totals over $130 million. And then we don't take credit for the tax revenue, but just from an economic driving point of view, you can see tax revenue that's collected by the Department of Taxes for each of those areas, giving and then in that expenditures column, that's our fiscal year 25. That was our actual expenditures or budget, but wasn't quite. I think we were a little under budget that year, perhaps. And it's that difference between the first and third column that becomes the direct application or the direct app to the general fund. Did I get that right?
Pretty close. It's
Okay.
not all direct app, but it all goes to the general fund.
Okay.
It all ends up there.
One way or another. So essentially, our budget for those 4 areas we regulate: insurance, banking, securities, and captives, 21 million. You'll see in the once we get to this year's budget. But yeah, with this completed year, we spent $19 million, collected $132 million, with the balance going to the general fund. Yes. Recognitions and, this, look at one more time, Joe. There we go. Got fancy here. So these are going to come up one by one. No fireworks though. These are the different, of course, we work very closely with other states, like the NAICs, the National Association of Insurance Commissioners. We're very, cooperative and collaborative with all my counterparts across the 50 states and 6 jurisdictions in terms of making sure we're where appropriate, united and aligned on how we regulate. CSBS on the banking as well as NASCUS and in captives we have were recently again awarded the #1 captive domicile ranking. And in all these areas we have, or most of these areas, certainly in banking and insurance and captives, we are subject to periodic accreditation. And we recently went through the once every 5-year NAIC accreditation and came out of that with really high marks in terms of the quality and efficiency of our regulation. And that's a pretty strenuous program of kind of state peer review. Is one way to look at it, that ensures that how we regulate our insurers and our markets can be relied upon by the other states. So, without that accreditation program and that stamp of approval, you would have other states. For instance, we have a 50-state company in National Life Insurance Company up the hill here. The way we regulate that is our domestic company is relied upon by all the other states that they do business in. And part of that is really empowered by the accreditation program, where those other regulators can see kind of from a quality peer review how Vermont has done. And so they can rely on our work rather than 49 other states each doing financial exams and analysis of a multi-state insurer like that. Same goes for Vermont Mutual, Union Mutual, the co-op that all do insurance business in other states.
Likewise, do you rely upon other states?
Yes.
Or a company that State Farm that might be
Yep.
where they're headquartered, but someplace else?
Yep, exactly. Yep, and that's kind of that's how, in my opinion, and that's how a 50-state regulatory system that's state-based, it's really kind of the only way it can function. If every state really went its own way, it would be wouldn't last long before the industry themselves went to Congress and said, can you guys take this over? Because we're dealing with 50 different states doing 50 different things, some good, some bad. Yeah, and I think backing up, of course, insurance of all the areas we regulate, insurance is different in that it's entirely state-based. There's effectively no federal meaningful regulation going on. Lots of exceptions and nuance there, but in banking and securities, of course, there's a very big federal footprint in terms of how regulation. And then in terms of market conduct, though, if a State Farm or another national company that's not Vermont-based, if we do have our own authority, of course, on how they treat consumers and whether they follow Vermont laws, and so we can pursue that all we want. So that primacy of state regulation is very much focused on the organization, the finances, the solvency, that sort of thing. Now we get to the budget, what we're asking for compared to the fiscal year 25, which is closed, last year's budget or the current budget we're in, and the 2.9% increase. You can see how that flows across those three areas. Yeah, I think maybe I'll kind of close with that, see if there are any questions. And then the following slides get really into the ups and downs and details that Dave lives and breathes in or has for the last couple of months.
Yes, Wayne.
Grants and restitution. Give grants to,
Yeah, so we have a special fund that we're allowed to, or someone who's subject to an enforcement order with us has the option to put, I believe, up to 15% of that amount into an education and restitution fund. And that can be used. We have a grant program that just closed for applications. I think, have 9 applicants looking to use that money to kind of spur outreach and education events, financial literacy, anti-fraud, and then the restitution piece. It's actually played a bigger part. We've given, I think, about $400,000 in restitution to date from that fund. So that's when we encounter a bad actor and they're maybe insolvent or unable to pay back for their lack of good behavior, the impacted Vermonters. And so we've been able to provide restitution. I think the law allows us to go up to perhaps 50 cents on the dollar. Is that right, Amanda? Or maybe Dave? Yeah. So we've been able to provide some meaningful restitution to Vermonters that can't collect it from the party.
so money flows in through restitution or
Enforcement actions.
enforcement actions and restitution. And then you're granting it back out to businesses, essentially businesses.
No, we're granting to nonprofits and schools, community organizations. I believe our policy is not to grant to businesses, certainly not to regulated entities, just to avoid any conflict. Yeah.
John?
The 339,000, is that the total in that special fund? Is that what that represents?
I'm sorry.
The 339,000, the grants and restitutions line, is that the total that? Is it special?
339,000.
Yeah.
Spent that year.
That's what you spent that year.
Yeah, 2025. Yeah,
How much is in the special fund?
I think it's about $500,000 in special fund right now.
So the 100,000 essentially is spending authority for you to give out its grants.
Yes, yeah, correct.
Thanks.
Questions? Yes, I'm just noting that you have negatives in the vacancy savings, line, and I'm just wondering what your vacancy rate is over there.
Yeah, currently we're at about 10% vacancy at this moment right now. So we have 110 positions. We have 10 open positions right now. I think our
We
budget is
built in
six.
6.5. roughly.
Okay.
I think we're trending upwards, which I'm assuming you're seeing across departments, so they're probably trending upwards.
Okay. Looking at the Tip was looking obviously at the ups and downs, and the other questions, it looks like there are several appropriations. Number. And number two. Are there any particular questions that you have?
Not at the moment, no.
Okay, well, thank you very much for coming.
Thank you.
We appreciate it. We appreciate your thorough description here.
Yeah,
If you have questions, we'll press through Mike.
excellent.
Okay,
Thank you.
Thank you.
thank you.
Good to see you, David. Yeah, bet. Stay out of trouble.
Safety coming in at 2:00. So we have a bit of a break.